Quitting is not the end of the story. It is the opening of a new chapter. Kierkegaard wrote about the leap of faith, a moment when one leaves behind the safety of rational calculation and steps into the unknown. Walking away can be that leap. It is not retreat, but transition. To quit like a philosopher is to trust that your life is larger than your current situation. It is to believe that you are more than your job, more than your social circle, more than the identity you cling to. By walking away, you make yourself available to transformation. Think of Nietzsche. He challenged us to constantly reevaluate values, to break free from the morality handed down by society. Quitting is an act of reevaluation. It says, I no longer accept the rules of this game. I choose to create a new one. This is not nihilism, but affirmation. It affirms that your will, your freedom, and your integrity are worth more than comfort or conformity. When you quit like a philosopher, you quit with purpose. You do not run away into emptiness. You step forward into possibility. You do not simply leave something behind. You walk towards something greater. And so, walking away is not cowardice, but courage. It is not weakness, but wisdom. It is not resignation, but rebirth. Discipline is not only in enduring what you must endure, but in quitting what you must quit. So the next time you hear the voice of the world telling you never quit, remember the philosophers. Remember Socrates, Epictetus, Marcus, Buddha, Kierkegaard, Nietzsche. Remember that quitting, when done with clarity, is not defeat, it is discipline. And sometimes, the greatest act of strength is simply to walk away. Quitting is not impulsive escape. It is a discipline of detachment. The Buddha, though not always labeled as a philosopher in the Western tradition, perfectly embodied this idea. He walked away from his palace, his wealth, his titles, and even his family. Not out of hatred, but out of a disciplined desire to search for truth. His renunciation was not abandonment, but alignment. He quit the life expected of him so that he could discover a life awakened within him. Discipline means controlling what controls you. And sometimes, what controls you is not chains or whips, but comfort, habit, and fear. You cling to routines that suffocate you because the unknown terrifies you. To quit like a philosopher is to look directly into that fear and say, I would rather walk into uncertainty with integrity than stay in comfort with despair. Detachment is difficult because the mind tricks us into believing that letting go means losing. But quitting a destructive path is not loss. It is liberation. When you stop clinging to what is toxic, you regain energy, time, and dignity. The philosopher is not addicted to appearances. He does not need to prove to others that he endured more suffering than anyone else. He does not seek medals for surviving misery. Instead, he seeks clarity. Does this path serve truth? Does it serve growth? If the answer is no, the discipline is to quit. This is why walking away must be practiced as an art. It requires reflection, honesty, and self-mastery. To walk away at the right time, in the right way, with the right spirit, that is the mark of true discipline. The Stoics remind us that true freedom is not external, but internal. Epictetus, once a slave, taught that freedom is the ability to align our will with reason, no matter the circumstances. Walking away, when done with philosophical clarity, is an expression of that freedom. Think of Marcus Aurelius. He was emperor of Rome, surrounded by luxury, wealth, and armies ready to obey him. But in his meditations, he often wrote about the futility of these external attachments. He reminded himself that power fades, reputation crumbles, and even empires collapse. What mattered was living in accordance with nature and reason. Marcus could not walk away from the throne in a literal sense, but he quit inwardly. He detached his identity from the illusions of power. You may not wear a crown, but you too are pressured by invisible empires. The empire of career expectations, the empire of social approval, the empire of endless consumption. Walking away means breaking the invisible chains. It is the refusal to let your worth be measured by a job title, a bank account, or a number on a screen. Walking away is not about doing nothing. It is about creating the space to choose something better. When you stop feeding energy into what drains you, you suddenly discover how much life remains within you. You realize how much of your identity was tied to systems that never truly cared about you. Philosophers walk away, not because they are indifferent, but because they care deeply about what truly matters. To leave the wrong thing is to make room for the right thing. And in this sense, quitting is not failure, it is strategy. We live in a culture that tells us to never quit. Winners never quit, and quitters never win, is the slogan of motivational posters, corporate seminars, and social media influencers. But philosophers have always known the truth. There are moments when quitting is not weakness, but wisdom. The act of walking away, done deliberately and with awareness, is not an escape, but a discipline. Consider Socrates. He chose to walk away from the comforts of a safe life in Athens, dedicating himself to questioning, irritating, and awakening others. To the crowd, he looked like a fool. To the powerful, he looked like a threat. But in reality, he had already quit the game everyone else was playing, the endless chase for reputation, wealth, and political influence. He walked away from it, and by doing so, he gained a freedom that others could not even imagine. Walking away requires courage because it looks like failure from the outside. When you quit a job that drains your soul, people call you irresponsible. When you leave a toxic relationship, some say you gave up too soon. When you abandon society's definitions of success, many whisper that you are lost. But the philosopher knows better. The opinion of the crowd is irrelevant compared to the integrity of the soul. To quit like a philosopher is not to run in fear, but to step back in strength. It is to say, I refuse to be enslaved by this path. I choose to redirect my energy towards something worth living for. Discipline is not always about endurance. Sometimes discipline is about stopping. The soldier who refuses to fight in an unjust war is disciplined. The thinker who refuses to flatter kings is disciplined. The individual who quits the endless race of comparison, envy, and shallow achievement is practicing discipline. Philosophy teaches us that life is not about how much we endure blindly, but about how consciously we choose. And sometimes, the wisest choice is to quit. And so, remember this: walking away is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of a new one. The world will always tell you to endure, to keep grinding, to prove yourself endlessly in games you never chose. But the philosopher knows that life is not measured by how much you suffer for appearances. Life is measured by the clarity with which you choose your path. To quit like a philosopher is to honor yourself. It is to step away from what poisons you and to make room for what strengthens you. It is the discipline of choosing freedom over fear, truth over illusion, and integrity over conformity. Do not confuse noise with meaning. Do not mistake endurance for wisdom. If a road leads only to emptiness, then the act of leaving it behind is not weakness, it is courage. So when the time comes, do not fear the silence of departure. Walk away with dignity. Leave behind what is not yours to carry. And know that in this act, you are not ending anything. You are opening the door to something greater. The discipline of life is not only in holding on, but in letting go. And sometimes, the strongest step you will ever take is the one that carries you away.